The last thing I'll say is just the human engineering. I think that with this with this ability to synthesize human genome, we can actually do a lot of things. There's actually a lot of opportunities for this to solve big world problems. So one thing is the climate change. And there, I'll just use, sort of climate change is a really big problem. We don't really know how to solve it. But it turns out that we can use human engineering to help us address climate change. So I'll give two examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it. I'm one of those, by the way. So, so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
So when we had a dinner before the launch of Mug Club, a very secret dinner, Alex Jones was there, and he was talking about how, and by the way, they're doing this right now, where they're making people allergic to meat. This comes from a tick, and he starts, and we're going like, that sounds like it's probably partially right.
The plan to poison the food supply isn't coming. It's here by poisoning us to where we're allergic to beef. And that's just the start. This is the total weaponization of the food supply. This is how the globalists are making their move.
Turns out it was all correct.
I refrain from eating meat, not because I think it will prolong my life, but because it prolongs the life of the chickens and the cows, whatever. In a kind of utopian society of the future, maybe you don't need to work at all, 0 hours of work. If you have the tools to provide people with what they need, even what they want without work, a lot of jobs are not worth saving.
Meat is one of the biggest sources of air pollution and water pollution around the world. Now, if you tell these people, no, you can't eat meat because it ruins the environment, they won't accept. But there is new technologies that you can produce meat just by growing it in cells. It's called cultured meat or clean meat. And it is much more ecological. It's also much more ethical, because if you want a hamburger, you don't need to raise a cow and then kill the cow to have an hamburger. You just grow the hamburger. It's much more ethical. It's much more ecological. This is the technological middle path.